Grand Prix Chicago. She is 5-0-1 playing Rug Delver and currently up a game here over the Man-Child. And Seth has a very powerful enchantment in play. Rest in peace, very good against Rug Delver.
Yeah, Nimble Mongoose, Tarmogoyf. Don't really do a whole lot anymore.
Well, Seth at 17, Jadine at 18. Players done some cantripping and stuff like that, but we'll see if Jadine can work her way through the rest in peace. Gonna sacrifice a wooded foothills here. So time to go searching. Jadine wrote a really, really awesome article on the Select Side of Star Stadium's Premium about getting second place in that Grand Prix and
I read it.
qualifying for the Pro Tour in Honolulu.
Yeah, it was great.
Could not have been much happier about it. Definitely earned it. Put the time in with Mono Black Devotion.
Oh, certainly. You should probably get her to write more.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I told her whenever she's got something to say, I'm listening.
Okay, fair
And
enough.
I will be the outlet, trust me.
You know, sometimes they just need a little encouragement, though. You can't just be like, hey, door's always open.
Hey, put it on me, always. It's always my fault.
Well, it
I'm a bad guy.
is your job.
Fair. Red Elemental Blast going to counter that Brainstorm. Aggressive. But going kind of,
I mean, Seth is stuck on lands.
Yeah, I mean, it's what this deck does, right? Like, you don't want to brainstorm into lands, you want to destroy the lands. Like, I imagine if she brainstorms into a Wasteland or a Stifle, you're going to hold that. So here's a Delver. You want to try to ride that to victory here. Seth will draw a card.
You're talking about Trinisphereing people, but
Yes, I am.
her red blasting of Brainstorm was like, come
I
on.
don't think it was bad. I think it was appropriate.
It was appropriate.
There's a Force of Will. That's a Swords. Can draw it with Brainstorm.
Yeah, what's better in this situation? Casting Brainstorm to draw that Force of Will, or using Force of Will to exile your Brainstorm, drawing that Force of Will?
I don't actually know. Yeah, so okay, that's flipped over because that's resolved. So
Yeah, I feel like you'd rather just Brainstorm, dig a little deeper, and then exile that other Force of Will, because maybe that Force of Will is not going to be too much help in your hand when you're on 3 lands.
plus you get a little more info this way.
Yeah, that's certainly true. I mean, I do feel like regardless of what happens, this Swords to Plowshares is getting forced.
I think so, yeah.
Like, Insectile Aberration is one of the few threats in Rug Delver that doesn't get severely hampered by Rest in Peace. So I feel like, especially with Seth kind of stuck on lands, like you want to protect this thing and try and ride this.
Yeah, I think we're in a protect the Queen situation.
Yeah.
Yep, there's Force. Removing Force of Will. So that Swords does not get the job done, it looks like. Yep. So there that goes. And now here's an attack.
Well, that was still upkeep.
Yep, don't think she drew for the turn, so she does need to do that. So we will pause it and make sure that she does draw for the turn. Because the Brainstorm took place. Of course, the Force of Will was revealed to the Delver, so there was no draw for the turn. So we do have our table spotted and our judge that will make sure that is taken care of. Because, you know, drawing a card,
It's nice.
it's mandatory.
There we go. 2 cards. Perfect.
And to be fair, I mean, she knows exactly what it is from Brainstorm, and now she will draw for
Right.
this actual turn as well. And surfing for 3 yet again. See if it's good to go. And it is. So Manfield goes down to 11. There's a Wasteland. That is nice.
It's certainly a nice card to have. If Seth has Stifle in his deck, which granted I know a lot of people playing Blue, White, Red Delver do not have, it might be a little more prudent to use it on the upkeep.
This is a Submerge. But that's a Red Elemental Blast, so that's not happening. At least we don't think so. Yeah, this is an exhibition in trying to protect the Queen.
Yep.
Trying to take this thing all the way home. Looks like Seth may cast a Spell Pierce here. Yep. Very quickly going to pay, so it leads me to believe he had days.
And that's pretty good. She ends up getting her Aberration submerged, plus Seth gets to return the land that was targeted with Wasteland.
Ends up being a really, really good exchange for Seth.
Yeah, certainly.
So now Seth will get the draw. Still has the Tundra. Drew a Brainstorm for the turn. So he's still got some fight in this thing. No, Delver's just going to come back down. Pass the turn back over to Manfield. Ponders the draw. That'll get cast. That'll resolve. And Seth will keep that. Scalding Tarn. All right, he's working his way back into this thing.
Yeah. The patience on Seth, like, not using that submerge immediately. Like, I know a lot of people are just like, okay, well, I'm getting beat down by this thing. I got to use this. But he took a hit from it and waited, and I'm not sure if he expected Jadine to have a wasteland and use that on his land and to him have that whole exchange and daze it back, but it definitely worked out for him.
Take a look. Flip it over. It's a ponder. Draw the ponder. We'll cast the ponder. We'll Klomparens. Take a look. And again, there are definitely some bad draws there. Tarmogoyf, Nimble Mongoose. But that one is good enough. Here's an attack for 3. Down to 7. See what this is. It's another Delver. And you have to assume it's flipping.
Yeah. I'm not sure you keep 1/1 Delver off a ponder, but maybe it is at that point where, like, if this 1/1 gets in 1 point, that cuts the clock by a full turn, so maybe that's worth it.
There's a bolt. This is good draws for Seth.
Yep,
Bolt and swords. And so you have to imagine the next card that's coming is not very good. Could be a brainstorm, could be a ponder, what have you, but it's definitely a card that was going to flip the Delver. And so now all Jadine can do is pass the turn back over to Seth. Seth's going to play a Scalding Tarn, go down to 6, so he's in double bolt range now, which is a little bit scary. But he's got to try to win the game. It wouldn't surprise me if he had something like True Name Nemesis this turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, there that is. So now it's time for him to try to close the game out. This is a brainstorm. That is good to go. So 2 cards are going to go back. This might be in response to the True Name, of course. Maybe try to counter that.
Yeah, maybe try and hit a red elemental blaster at daze.
And now it's time for ponder. So take a look at 3 of them. And doesn't like what she sees, so shuffle it up. You can feel it kind of switching back to Seth's side now.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, I mean, Jadine has a lot of outs. Like, another Delver that goes uncontested might be able to do it, or if she's able to string together 2 bolts and Seth doesn't have any counterspell.
Probe, take a look. Brainstorm and Batterskull. Mystery card coming.
Batterskull will be good eventually, but I don't think it's going to come to that.
I don't know when we're going to get there. Here's a Wasteland. Knock out that Tundra. Seth will draw. In for 3. Jadine will go down to 14. There's a Brainstorm. So peel 3, put back 2. Seth found another white source there off the Brainstorm. So there's that. There's a Wasteland to take down the green source.
Yeah, and Seth could certainly use that to try and get to 5 mana, but I think he recognizes that this game is not about Batterskull.
I think it's about trying to kill as fast as he can with True Name Nemesis.
Yeah, just try and fade 2 bolts, and that's it.
Seth will draw 3 more, down to 8. Jadine will draw, pass it back. Seth quickly draws down to 5. Jadine draws a little slower this time. Fork Bolt U. See a Flusterstorm there in Seth's hand. Let's see what this is. Hardcast a Daze. Pay for the Daze. Seth says I will Daze again. That takes that. Care of that. Pass it back over to Manfield, who will draw. Picked up a copy of Volcanic Island in for 3. Jadine's down to 2. No bolt here for Seth. Jadine will draw. It's a ponder. You see the bolt over there, I think, in her hand as well. Yep, there's a ponder. 2 and 3, looking for a trop, I believe, to play Nimble Mongoose, but that's going to do it. So they're going to game 3 here. with about 15 minutes left on the clock, Manfield and Klomparens are tied up at 1 game apiece. This matchup is always really super back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like Rug Delver is very much the aggressive deck in this matchup. Blue White Red has the better late game with the equipment, and if Rug is able to get off to a fast start and keep it, then Blue White Red Delver is going to be in a lot of trouble. But I think most of the games are going to play out in a way like that, where you see Rug Delver having the early start, and then Blue White Red Delver is just trying to slowly claw its way back into the game, maybe stabilize at a low life total, fade some lightning bolts, and eventually take over with more powerful cards like Batterskull or True Dame Nemesis.
So, yesterday, when we saw the Boz.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Yeah. When we saw the Boz with the no sleeves, arms crossed, it was both times that we had green white on camera.
Yeah.
So what do you think he's watching over there? Maverick, Toon Battle?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, like, okay, well, maybe Rug Delver is his legacy green-white, because there aren't a lot of Maverick decks in the room anymore.
No.
You know, Todd Anderson was championing that deck for a while, but he's mostly switched off.
Reads the back of match. All right, got it.
Okay,
I
that
just
makes sense.
I like that this Boz is always looming with like his arms crossed.
Literally, the only 2 times we saw him yesterday were watching green-white decks.
Now it's just like, hey, Boz, is there like a Maverick mirror going on that we don't know about? Or
he's just like, I found it. Here it is.
I love Savannah. It is my favorite card. It is so good.
Maybe it's not even Savannah. Maybe it's just Fleece Mane Lion.
It's a good card. Big fan. Big fan of that one. So game number 3 will be underway here. You see both players shuffling up very, very quickly. Again, about 13 minutes will be left when they do begin. And both players sitting here at 5-0-1. So picking up a loss may not be the end of the world, but obviously don't have any interest in losing when you're at a Magic tournament.
Yep.
So Klomparens will be on the play. See if she finds something that she likes. That was a very fast keep. She kept her hand before Seth even picked up the 7 cards. So, gonna just play a Volcanic Island and pass the turn back. That is the Wooded Foothills. Just gonna pass it back again. Wonder what the hand is here.
Looks like a Stifle and some blue cards.
Okay.
Probably some counter magic.
Well, we're gonna find out what Seth has right now. And Jadine is gonna pay 2 life to play a Gataxian Probe. So, Brainstorm, Pyroblast, Rest in Peace. Looks like from Lavamancer, another Brainstorm, and Delver of Secrets, and a Scalding Tarn.
But Cedric, he has those 1-drops. Why hasn't he cast them yet?
He's a genius. He's brilliant.
He's trying really hard to not get stifled.
I don't want to get stifled either.
Me neither.
There's a Wasteland. Pass it back. I'm not in love with how this game is going for Jadine, because I don't know if this is the kind of game you want to play. Like, we're working our way into like a longer game, because I mean, Rug Delver is basically a land destruction deck.
Yeah.
And a tempo deck. So like, the more turns we get to play like this, the more that Seth can kind of, you know, bob and weave and maybe set things up a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree, but we've seen some very patient games played by people like Jacob Wilson, Alexander Hayne, where like this type of opening scenario is not uncommon to them.
Okay.
Like, neither player wants to blink. In this case, it just so happens that they both have lands. Normally it is like whoever doesn't play the 3rd land or the 4th land is just like, I'm getting kind of nervous, and then they have to blink. They get in this counter war where, you know, 2 lands get stifled, one of them gets wastelanded or whatever, one player's left with nothing.
So Stifle is targeting the first fetch land activation. In response to that, Seth cracks a Scalding Tarn to go get a Volcanic Island. So again, we're still responding to the Stifle. This is a Pyroblast. That is a Force of Will, removing Force of Will. So we are fighting over mana here. So that'll take care of that. Will Stifle resolve? Yes. I imagine that Wasteland's at the ready to get that Volcanic out of here.
Yeah, certainly.
Sacrifice this. Will that resolve? Yes.
And that's part of the reason why you fight over that Stifle, right? Is because otherwise, if you just let him have a bunch of lands, that Wasteland is not doing much either. And this way you get to constrict his mana like doubly, so you get to stifle a land and waste a land.
There's a Delver. There's a waste on Tundra. Jadine will quickly untap and take a draw here. That's a Wasteland. Get that out of here. This is the game that Rug Delver wants to play.
Exactly. It took a few turns to set up, right? But
Fork Bolt 1-1. Clear that out of the way. Is there a threat here, maybe? Sacrifice the Wooded Foothills. All right, now we're moving. There's a Trop. Again, Klomparens does know the grip for Seth for the most part.
For the most
Knows
part,
there's a
yeah.
rest in peace hiding out over there. A Nimble Goose, a Ponder instead. All right, so going to resolve that. Take a look at a couple of cards here. Happy enough, going to keep it. Seth draws a card, it's another rest in peace. There is a Flooded Strand, but that's his only land.
Yeah.
So if there's another Wasteland looming, it gets ugly, as we saw in the second game, but Seth was able to work his way out of that. We also do know that Seth has 2 Brainstorms in hand. So, I mean, there's the potential to get a Brainstorm lock, yes. But there's also the potential to find lands. There's a Daze on that. Jadine quickly draws. There's a Wooded Foothills. Kick it back. No threat yet is the problem. And Seth does draw a land. It's an Arid Mesa. So we'll see if Seth wants to deploy one of these copies of Rest in Peace. Looks like the answer is yes. Will it resolve? It does. So now Tarmogoyf, no Mongoose. Not so good. Jadine draws, plays Volcanic Island, passes the turn back, so she just can't find a threat yet. Seth with a Ponder. Good to go. Take a look at the top 3. See if he wants to keep. He does. Now a Brainstorm. And 3. So 2 are going to have to go back. You see Stoneforge Mystic among them, also an Arid Mesa. That's kind of the difference in these decks, right? Like, you're able to play kind of the mana screw you game when you're in the Rug Mirror because, you know, typically that's an 18-land deck, but Blue-White Red has a few more lands.
Yeah.
And you may think, like, oh, what's the big deal with 2 more lands? That's not really that many, but it does add up. Especially at Brainstorm.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially when you factor in something like Ponder and Brainstorm, like, you see a lot of cards on each turn, and certainly per game.
Consider that this is really the second game in a row where this kind of game has happened, where Rug Delvers tried to play the mana denial game, which is very good at doing, but without any pressure, you're not really getting anywhere because, again, Seth was basically without lands.
He had 0 lands for a turn.
Yeah. And now he's worked his way back up to 3 lands. And, you know, Jadine's expended a lot of her resources to keep Seth stuck without lands. Now Seth is like, all right, now I'm going to play Stoneforge Mystic. And you know if I get Batterskull in play, you can't win. A Lightning Bolt will probably take place here on that Stoneforge Mystic in a moment, but Seth is threatening Batterskull. That's very, very, very difficult for Rug Delver to beat. There's a Fork Bolt. 2 damage will go there. Here's no Mongoose, which will likely never go larger than a 1/1 due to Rest in Peace. Seth will draw. 2 mana. Another Stoneforge Mystic. There's a Delver's Secret. Seth has nothing to search for. So he just passes the turn back. But now he's consistently putting Jadine to the test. Like, do you have a bolt to get this off the table? Here's a Brainstorm. If you don't, my Batterskull's going to go into play. You're probably going to lose.
Yep.
If I get my 5th land, Seth may cast Batterskull then with 5 lands, maybe not. But if he does, it's like, do you have Daze or Force of Will? If not, I'm probably going to win. Here's a Volcanic. There's a Pyroblast. That's a bolt to get that off of the table. And here's an attack for 1. Delver any interest in trading? I imagine not.
Yeah, I don't think so. That Goose is not going to be anything more than a 12-turn clock, right?
Yeah, it's never going to be loose. Delver going to flip now. Brainstorm, of course a great draw. Seth will cast that. So, time to look at 3 cards, put 2 of them back, see if he can find a fetch land to make it perfect, or maybe even a Stoneforge Mystic. And Mystic was the last card of the bunch. Looks like he also found a copy of Submerge. Not great now, but I imagine good later.
Yeah.
So Brainstorm does resolve. There's a Mystic.
It looks like he just liked what he saw. You know,
apparently
he didn't want to shuffle anything. He had a Submerge, but yeah, okay.
Yep. Jadine doesn't have an answer and knows that a Batterskull is coming, so does extend the hand, and Seth Manfield is going to win this match over Jadine Klomparens. 2 games to 1, 6-0-1.